So my brothers finally got me to watch One Piece. And right now I'm on episode 539. So I just kind of want to go over everything that's happened in the show, the good, the bad, the ugly, from season 1 to 8. But before I go through each season, I do want to go over like some main points. First off, I want to say the music is great. I love the music in this show. From the very start, I didn't think it would be this good. It kind of reminds me of Dragon Ball Z type music. You know, the classic music they always play, whether it's for a fight scene, a sad scene, a happy scene, you know, goofy, and it's just perfect. Especially once you go through and learn them all from listening to it over and over and over again. Another thing I appreciate is that nothing, no characters or anything is ever forgotten. Everything comes back eventually, all the characters. I really appreciate that about the writing because this show does not forget anything. I do want to say, in the beginning, Luffy is very annoying. His voice is annoying. He's very stupid. He just seems like a Goku type character, or the Goku in Super, I would say. He's not as annoying, but he's still pretty annoying. Just a generic character. But later on, he does get character development. He becomes a lot more enjoyable. I will say, even though each arc takes a long time to get through, I think they should do like a Kai of One Piece. The world building is pretty nice. Like I said, everything always ties back in and makes sense in the end. The comedy, this is one of the funniest animes I've watched. Zoro and Sanji is hilarious.
How am I supposed to look cool with this thing on my head?
You gonna cry over a hat? Hey, that looks good on you.
You think I'm gonna fall for that stupid?
By far the funniest character is Sanji in my opinion, so.
Well, he's easy to read. Really easy to read.
But him and Zoro, man, when they're together, it's hilarious. Luffy is funny at times when he's not just plain old stupid. Usopp is hilarious. Chopper is adorable. Frankie, Nami, and Robin, they don't really have any like moments that are too funny like that. So, but this show is hilarious. Even all the goofiness, I love it. It's so genuine and lighthearted. Oh, and to bring that up, this show is very lighthearted, and I appreciate the times that it is.
Hey, barkeep, I'll take 50 steaks to go.
And I'll take 51 of those delicious cherry pies to go.
Wait, make that 52 steaks.
Better make that 53 pies.
54 steaks.
55 pies.
60 steaks.
70 pies.
80.
100.
I'm gonna beat the living crap out of you.
Did you even have the slightest idea what you're fighting about?
And I do appreciate the times when it does get somewhat serious. Of course, the biggest fault for this show is definitely how it drags. This does not need to be 1,000 episodes, but everybody already knows that. But I think a part of the accomplishment of feeling good about watching this show is just getting through all of it, saying you got through all of the show. Another thing I didn't like is the backwards storytelling. For some odd reason, they'll do flashbacks when the current event or like fight has already passed, or they'll do it mid-fight, and sometimes it takes away from the specialness or the impact of that moment because it happened afterwards. But we'll get into that a little later. Another thing I do appreciate about this show is the unique laughs and kind of dialogues that certain characters get, and it's not every character doesn't get it, and I just think it adds to the charm of the show. And yes, there are times where this show is just straight booty, like bad. Like I rolled my eyes sitting there trying to watch through it. It's terrible. But okay, now we'll get into each season, like a critique of each season, the things I liked and didn't like. So starting with season 1. We don't know much about Luffy besides that he wants to be king of the pirates, which is fine for the start, but it kind of drags a little too long before we actually get to know Luffy. I do appreciate the time they take in season 1 to go and get each of his crewmates and how everybody has a dream they want to accomplish. Some of the standouts and highlights of season 1 is definitely the Baratier with Sanji. I think he had one of the more impactful stories. along with Zoro. All that stuff that happened at the Baratier with Zoro pledging himself to Luffy, saying he wouldn't lose again when he fights Hawkeye. The real emotional moments behind Sanji's backstory and the emotional moments at the end when he's leaving the Baratier, and you could really feel the impact of those stories. And Nami's story is also very heartfelt too. Arlong as a villain was just okay, you know, just a normal villain. But who really stood out to me at the end of season 1 was Smoker. I really liked his character. He's such a cool character. It's too bad that he's not too involved in the show. His power, his devil fruit power is so good, and he's such a cool character. Next up is season 2. They go to the Grand Line. They meet Laboon. Laboon's story was cute. I actually enjoyed that part. But then we get Chopper joining the crew. Chopper is... I love Chopper. He's super cute. It's pretty sad. It was nice to see Chopper's character development throughout that time that they picked him up for the crew and everything he went through on his island. After they get Chopper though, the season kind of gets a little boring. They meet Vivi, they travel to Arabasta. There's actually a lot of filler going from getting Chopper to going to Arabasta with Vivi. It feels like filler, but apparently it's not. It's actually a part of the story. The real filler later on was actually terrible, but I thought this was filler at the time. I didn't skip it. Luffy did meet Ace during this time, and I thought Ace was such a cool character to see. He didn't do much, but he did give him the card so that he'd always know where he was. But when we get to Arabasta, at first it's kind of boring. It's good and boring at the same time because everybody has their own fight. Sanji fights Bon Clay, and I love that fight. Sanji is the funniest character. He's the biggest simp, and I love it. It's hilarious. Bon Clay, also love Bon Clay. Their characters are funny, and it was perfect. Then it was Zoro and number 1, I think, or Mr. 1, something like that. That fight was cool because Zoro learns how to cut through metal, and that's part of his journey and getting stronger. I did appreciate them actually showing that. And I also find it hilarious how Zoro trains. He's always training with a bunch of weight or something. Something that's clearly impossible. A bunch of weight on a boat, off the edges of the boat. It doesn't make any sense, but it's hilarious. Nami's fight here is kind of goofy. I didn't really care for it. And same with Usopp and Chopper when they were working together. That fight was goofy too. I couldn't wait for him to be over. But yeah, then there's the big war going on with all the citizens, you know, the Civil War. Then there's Crocodile. I didn't really care for his story, his villain story. It was, you know, just a normal cartoon villain, you know, normal cartoon ambitions and goals and stuff, but his design, his swag, his style, everything about Crocodile is so cool. Luffy beats Crocodile and they get Robin to join. She kind of just joins. She just hops on the ship. I do appreciate that. Everybody didn't need some crazy story. She gets her story later on, but I didn't feel like going through another flashback and story at that time. And now we're on to Skypiea. I think everybody knows Skypiea was very boring at first. It's definitely the worst arc, but before we went to Skypiea, we did meet characters on the ground still before they went up to the sky. They met Blackbeard, which I actually thought was a pretty cool dude at the time. I actually enjoyed Blackbeard's character for the little bit of time him and Luffy talked.
Your two friends won that fight without even throwing a punch. I respected the way you treated them back there. You got nerves of steel, lady.
Luffy!
This new era they keep rambling on and on about is a load of crap. The era when pirates dream of treasure will come to an end? Yeah, right!
What are you talking about?
The dreams of pirates will never end!
But turns out later on, he's a douchebag.
Don't you want to be there for your brother's public execution?
Then there was the villains on the way to meet Inaru, to fight Inaru. Those were the most cliche, boring, annoying characters, man. Those characters sucked. It was nothing funny, special. That arc was terrible. All the way up to when we fought Inaru, which was actually pretty cool. I liked Inaru's fight. Of course, Luffy was stuck being stupid inside the mouth of a snake for like 5 episodes. But you know what's funny? The little episodes, the arc, I don't know if it's an arc, I don't know what it is. After they fight Inaru and land on the ground, that's better than the whole Inaru arc because they get stuck at this impenetrable, I think it's called impenetrable marine fortress or something like that. And they have to sneak around the marine base. I enjoyed all the dialogue, all the funny stuff that happened during that arc. And it was just a lot more fun and interesting than the entire Inaru arc. The only thing that paid off in the Inaru arc was that moment where Luffy could hit Inaru because he's rubber and he didn't get electrocuted. That was, I got pretty hype on that part.
Stay calm. Physical attack still can't affect my body. He's just a helpless monkey from the Blue Sea world.
Now, season 4 and 5 is when it started to get good. One Piece started to actually get good outside of being funny. We met CP9 and Water 7, but before that was Captain Foxy. It was all right. I'm not gonna exaggerate. It was all right. It was just something to get through. I don't know. It was weird. Foxy is funny, but the show could have definitely went without it. Those are also episodes to where I couldn't tell if it was filler or not. That stuff is stuff that can be cut out if they ever do a shortened version of One Piece. But then we get Usopp versus Luffy. The argument because of the going merry, definitely by far one of the best parts of the show so far where I was. The emotion, the argument, the valid argument actually. I gained a lot more respect for Usopp because Usopp kind of just seemed like this useless character. I liked him, but he was just a useless character, and he actually gained some respect because that was pretty hype when they fought. Very serious, very emotional. Then we met Frankie. At first, I was like, is this just a normal side character? But then I started to put the pieces together, like he's a shipwright, and I actually enjoy his character. I think he'll be sticking around because I did like Frankie. But I do feel like CP9 was the first real villains that they fought, like good villains. During this, we get Robin's flashbacks.
Now with more gusto. Now that's more like it.
Robin definitely has a sad story. I enjoyed her stories. Everybody's backstory is pretty good actually, but I think the funniest part of this show so far during the CP9 Water 7 arc was Zoro and Usopp versus that giraffe. I forgot his name, but man, that was hilarious.
Ox fruit, model giraffe. Gaku, you poor bastard! I told you not to eat that fruit, didn't I?
The fight was funny. The dialogue was funny, man. It was just perfect. I enjoyed that so much. That's one of the parts of the show that I actually plan on going back to watch once I finish it because it was so funny.
Behold, my man-beast form. I have been reborn with unspeakable power.
Whoa, that is lame!
But what? No!
This arc was also when I realized the real filler in the show. The real filler were these random episodes where they're just like in a different universe or something. They're all the same characters, but they're different characters. You know, other shows do it differently to where the filler has something to do with the story. This has nothing to do with the story. And I gave a couple of them a try, and I was like, what am I watching this for? I'm skipping it. Another part where it drags is specifically where they're all jumping off to go save Robin, and they play a flashback for every single character. And I just couldn't believe it, man. It's like, really? Maybe they did it for people that started in that arc, like when the show was coming out, and they didn't know everyone's backstory, and maybe, I don't know, man. It was just annoying. Luffy versus Lucci was a good fight in the show. I think it was one of the best ones up to this point, and the payoff was good because Luffy's so stupid that he really thought Sniper King was Sniper King and not Usopp, but at the end, Usopp does come through, and it kind of like, it makes it better because of the argument that they went through. It's another good emotional moment where Usopp has to beg to come back to the crew, and I really enjoyed that part too. But then, unexpectedly, the show ends off the season with a good moment between Ace and Blackbeard. That fight was sweet, and it was a perfect ending to that season to see what to expect coming up next. Then we get to season 6. And I thought the Inaru arc was bad. Lord have mercy. Season 6 is easily the worst arc of the show, and I'm pretty sure everybody can agree. I'd rather it just not be in the show. The villain was so uninteresting and boring. The writing kind of isn't that good during that season. It's not really funny. Honestly, it could be taken out of One Piece completely and everything else will be fine, because they end up where I am. They get rid of Moria anyways. Well, I don't know what's actually happened to him, but he ran away and he's... This arc delivered no impact to the show besides Bartholomew Kuma, which is one of the best, coolest, sweetest characters in this show, but we'll get to him in a second. And then there was Oars. Oh my gosh, man, that was the worst sitting through. It was terrible to sit through that arc. That's one of the times in the show where you just gotta force yourself through it, and it's just the worst. You shouldn't have to force yourself through any show for that long. We get Brook. He's, just the musician. Doesn't seem very strong. I haven't seen what he's made of. He's kind of annoying. And he's more useless than what Usopp was. I do like his music though.
A trio. And a duet.
But by far one of the hardest moments in this show was Bartholomew Kuma when he made Zoro touch that bubble. Oh my goodness. Zoro is he's definitely it's between him and Sanji on who's the best character in the show. But man, Zoro is like the perfect cool character. He's not a dickhead, but he's also super cool and serious at the same time. And the way he stands there after taking all that damage from that bubble, man, didn't even tell Luffy either. What a G. Season 7 and 8 is when the show really starts picking the pace and it becomes actually worth it to watch One Piece, man. It took so long, but that's when it really started picking up the pace. But season 7 had 4 different islands in it. Sabaody Archipelago, Amazon Lily, Impel Down, and Marine Ford, all in one arc. It was 2 seasons, but one arc. I watched on Hulu, so I don't know how it is for everybody else. It started off hard with Luffy punching the Celestial Dragon. Man, that animation was so good. That was the first time the animation got super good like that, and it was so satisfying to see him punch that Celestial Dragon. It was getting on my nerves. He was getting on my nerves. They introduced the New Age pirates. We got Kizaru and Rayleigh too. It started getting really good. A lot of stuff going on. You really could feel the impact of everything else building up to the New Age, how powerful people really are, and all the pirates going over to the New World. Man, One Piece really started to feel like One Piece. The Straw Hats, they get their first loss, which made me very happy because Luffy just kept powering through everything. He just had no limits. We've seen him do no training, anything. He's just beating everybody up. Not beating them up, he's barely winning. And as they explain later on, he does do it through his sheer will to get to that point. But once they get sent by Bartholomew Kuma to everywhere else, and Luffy really starts to realize the consequences of his actions, that he can't just beat up everybody, that he's gonna start to need to train and actually get stronger like Zoro's been doing the whole time. But I really like the show where Luffy goes to Amazon Lily, another great fun part of the show. He meets Boa Hancock. She falls in love because of course he's the only guy that's ever denied her. That's how it goes in real life. During this part of the show, I was completely invested. It was so good. Then Luffy goes to Impel Down. He meets back up with Bon Clay and Buggy. That was a pretty cool. That was all right. That was funny. I do want to say that Warden Magellan was very OP. And that's where I started to get confused on this scaling. Of like, it was nice to see that Luffy can't overpower everybody, and some people's powers are just too good for him to beat, or he just doesn't have the correct tools needed. But he does work with that wax dude. I forgot his name. He still doesn't beat Magellan yet. Magellan. He still doesn't beat Magellan after that, and that was just. I was like, wow, that's crazy. I do like Evie. This show didn't seem like woke or anything, which I appreciated. It was still funny and lighthearted. I think it's because this show was made before all the wokeness started going real crazy. So it was just kind of like normal and funny. Nothing was forced. It felt like it belonged in the show. This is when I really started to like Crocodile when he comes back. Crocodile is just so hard, man. He's just such a cool character to look at. His stances, his quotes, his poses. When he's not being just he doesn't have his cliche villain motives. Man, he's a joy to watch. Him and Smoker I really like. Blackbeard shows up. This part of the show was just fun chaos. I enjoyed pretty much every moment of it. It was no slow parts. When they were trying to save Ace, it really caught me off guard that Blackbeard showed up too. It was just, you didn't know what was going to happen next, who was going to be where. I love Whitebeard. I thought he was just going to be like more of an evil pirate. His intentions were a lot more pure, calling everybody his son. Whitebeard was clearly the real king of the pirates since Roger is gone, and I believe he knows where the One Piece is and all that, and he just chose his own life. He was just the actual king. He called everybody his son, and I really like that about him. When Whitebeard shows off his power, it really shows how far Luffy has to go. But I love the entire battle at Marineford. All the characters that come together, all the villains, everybody's there, and it's just like, this is nuts. The amount of characters in this show is crazy. You can sometimes tell that they use the same voice actors, they just make a little bit of a different voice, but what do you expect when it's this many characters? The only thing I didn't like about this arc, there's actually two. It's the fact that we get Ace's flashbacks and story after it's over, so when he dies, it's not as impactful to us as it would be if we had already known him and Luffy's past. But at the same time, Ace is a bad character, and hear me out. He's super cool and all, but he's a bad character because he didn't learn from his actions. There's no character development with him. It's like he stayed the same throughout the whole show, besides when he couldn't beat Whitebeard and Whitebeard spared his life. But at Marineford, he's crying the whole time. Everybody's coming to save him. All these people died, pulled up to save him. And at the end of the day, he realizes how many people have died coming to rescue him. At the end of the day, he goes back and fights, even though that's the opposite of what Whitebeard and everybody wants him to do.
No one gets away with mocking Pops.
All those people came and died, but he's going to go back and fight anyways while they're trying to escape. Do you realize how selfish and backwards that is? It defeats the whole purpose of everybody coming to save him, besides Luffy getting his character development that he needed in order to realize that he needed to get more serious and get stronger. I feel like that's the only reason Ace actually dies. Otherwise, he could have been written a little bit better than just, oh, you talked about Whitebeard, now I'm gonna beat you up. But then again, like I said, they establish it later on that he always finishes his fights or whatever, that he doesn't back down, he doesn't run away. But that's after, so it's kind of like, okay, we see what he's doing now, but during the time when it happened, it was kind of disappointing to see Ace just be kind of stupid. So overall, I do think it takes away from the emotional impact it could have had, but it does give Luffy the well-deserved, much-needed character development. It was also nice to see how Luffy actually gets strong from the past, why he is who he is and how he's so strong. Him and Ace's relationship, that was really refreshing to see, because before then we didn't know anything about Luffy. Almost 500 episodes in. No, it was over 500 episodes in, I believe. And I think that's kind of backwards, because just imagine if they canceled this show, if it didn't do good and they canceled it, nobody would have ever known what happened, why Luffy was so strong. It's just that he wanted to be the king of the pirates. But I do like when Shanks pulls up, like Shanks is clearly on a different level, and I didn't think he actually was. If I'm not mistaken, he's probably either the strongest or second strongest. I'm not sure who would be over him, but the way everybody reacted when he got there, it was like, okay, Shanks is clearly the strongest. And why wasn't he here, actually? I do think another special moment was when Garp went to go save. So Garp would have betrayed the army to go save Ace, and I really thought that was a very special, important moment, because it was nice to see that Garp it wasn't just all Marine for him. That's still his family and he cared. And it was hard to see that the Admiral had to hold him in place in order for him to not go save him.
Because if you don't, I swear that I am gonna murder Sakazuki. Damn it all.
But I do love how Hancock is. She's like a Sanji, but for Luffy. I love how she takes care of him. And then Luffy goes on to train with Rayleigh, and I thought that was perfect. And everybody meets up later on. I've watched a little bit past the time skip on like episode 539, I believe. And it's crazy how much stronger everybody is. Right now I'm on a very boring arc where they're in Fishman Island. So unfortunately the show goes back down a little bit. I expected that to happen, and I gotta sit through some more okay anime just to hopefully get to another good part pretty soon. But yeah, there is my overall opinion on One Piece so far. I hear the payoff is even greater, so as I keep watching, I'm hoping I can see that eventually. Once I get there in about a couple months, maybe 3 months, I'll make another video on the entire show and how, if it paid off or not, and whether you should spend the time to watch 1,075 episodes. All right, I hope y'all enjoyed the video. Peace out.
Did he just say princess?
Please don't! No, Sanji! Fight the urge to look!
Hey, I need to know, if I turn around to look behind me, am I gonna see the mermaid princess? That's her. I never realized how meager my imagination is. She's magnificent. She is quite simply too beautiful for the mind to comprehend.